stuff that Rovers will have struggled to have, because they were one of these teams who had a warm-up injury, I think, with Jamie Ellis having to drop out and Jordan Abdul going into the halves. And whilst he did a fantastic job at London last year, Jordan Abdul is a big boot and a forward. He's not a half-back in my eyes. Is a creative forward is where he would work best. So obviously that'll have disrupted them, the Rovers, and without their usual fullback, whose name now escapes me. Oh, what's his name? The little
Quinlan.
Yeah, Adam Quinlan. So Will Dagger, who's a very talented kid, came in there, but they do lose something without Quinlan in the side. I think we see that all of the time when you watch this side. So they did have some things to overcome that there. I think the Rhinos did get some things right with their team selection. The thing I mentioned before, Newman back in the centres, I think that was massive. It meant Luke Briscoe came in on the wing. I think that worked well. And I think that back three as well in the pack is a young and creative back three in Alex Mellor, Liam Sutcliffe and Cameron Smith. I think they've got a lot of ability in that back three that if they can strike right, those guys can really work well off the half-backs inside of them as well. So I think that's a good sign for Leeds. I mentioned Gale, but really Harry Newman was the standout player in this game, and I suppose he had a big role in one of the standout moments. He picked up a loose ball, didn't he, and absolutely gassed it through the gap, and then drew in all the defenders and passed the ball off to Hanley to sort of just stroll 50 metres and put the ball down under the sticks. But it was all from Newman's instinctive ability and talent. And, I can't say too much about Harry Newman. I've talked about him all last year as well. And I'm so glad that he's back in the centres, because it means he's got me some fantasy team points this week. Also, a special mention for Richie Myler, out jumping the fullback to grab his try at the end of the game as well. I've got to say, Myler's really adapting well to this role that he's been given, kind of as the interchange hooker. And you got to credit him, haven't you? Because when they make a big signing to essentially take your place in the side, they're saying you're not good enough, but you're under contract and no one else wants you. That's a shit position for Myler to be in, and actually is making the best of it, and you've got to credit him for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think, was he jumping against Will Dagger though? Because Will Dagger can't jump. So anyway, but yeah, no, I give him all his all the credit that he deserves. Leeds were clearly running hot in this one, but Hull KR, from I've only seen the highlights too, but my God, there were some big gaps in that defensive line. They were full of defensive frailty. When you've got James Donaldson slicing through, you've got problems. So they were on the end of a hiding this week. They've got to hope it's not the shape of things to come. You would hope.
Yeah, there were a few of the tries that were a bit sloppy. I certainly agree, but I also think that Leeds scored some good tries.
Oh, they did, yeah. I thought Newman's first try particularly was really good from my point of view. That was probably my highlight one, kind of moving from left to right and then kind of back inside again.
Yeah, and I think Walker's try was a pretty incisive run down through the middle back inside, and like I think it was Gale who seemed to be pulling the strings on all of those key moments as well. So people who were kind of hoping for Gale to fail at Leeds. I'm not saying that Leeds are going to finish in the top 5 with Luke Gale in the side, but I don't think Gale's going to have a terrible season in that side.
No.
In games where his props can get on top of the other team,
well,
he's going to look good.
That was always his problem when he was in other teams where he obviously all halfbacks rely on a dominant pack, or at least a reasonable pack, don't they? So
it certainly helps, doesn't it?
It does. So also on Friday night we had a closer game. It was Salford against Huddersfield at the AJ Bell. It finished Salford 10, Huddersfield 12. It was 6-4 to the Giants at half-time, refereed by James Child, and there were 3,350 people there to watch what was actually a very competitive match. From the stats point of view, the Giants won on a number of the stats, over 200 more metres at 1 metre per carry better average gain. Plus, they had better discipline, only 4 penalties conceded to Salford's 7. Both teams tackled well, with the Giants just edging it. For the winning Giants, Adam O'Brien, any other business, with 1 try, 53 tackles, 11 marker tackles. Aaron Murphy, the smallest second rower in the game, 45 tackles. Lee Gaskell with 119 metres, and Jerry McGilvery showing up as normal with 116 metres. For the losing Salford side, Lee Mossop, 48 tackles, 10 marker tackles, 120 metres, but crucially a penalty conceded at the wrong time. Ken Seo with 1 try, 185 metres, 3 clean breaks. Luke Yates putting in a shift yet again, 49 tackles, 11 marker tackles. And Dan Sarginson with a try and 116 metres.
Yeah, the tackle numbers, it was the best combined tackle success so far of any game this season, so it did have that sort of intensity that a 3,500 crowd didn't bring. I think, unfortunately, Karsten was the first one on this one, so he'll feel happy about himself there. He said Kevin Brown loses his head or something like that. The game itself was hard to watch, but Caesar's kicking game was shit. I agree.
Oh dear.
Yeah, they kept talking like Caesar was some magician in this game, but the amount of kicks he just dinked over the defender in front of him, but made it so easy for the fullback to clean it up, and there was never any Huddersfield player around it either, like threatening. I thought it was mostly very poor.
Yeah.
But he acknowledged that himself after the game, asked his coach. So I think that's a positive that they're aware of that. But yeah, I agree. I thought it was. I couldn't believe he was man of the match. Let's put it that way. But I'll let you talk about that.
No, it was an interesting one because I noted actually very early on a couple of the kicks from both sides were actually very good. They kind of forced repeat sets, and it almost feels like the narrative was set from the commentary point of view, or Caesar's having a good game with the boot. We're going to keep saying that, even though actually in reality it drifted away. So I definitely think early on some of his kicks were actually pretty decent, but you're right, there were far too many that were not where they should be.
From everything we've seen and stuff, he was brilliant in that first game at Catalans, but he's been given the same levels of praise almost after this game, and I've got to say, I think he was just okay. Yeah,
it was more of a. There were lots more.
He was a bit better than Lola here in the key moments. That's what I would say.
Yeah, there were. He was part of a bigger combined effort. But yeah, Owen Hughes says, never really been a fan of Kev Brown, and that game has not won me round, well, not unsurprisingly. Really good close game that I enjoyed, but we deserved to lose for that moment of madness. Should have been red. Congrats to Huddersfield. I'm pleased with our performance against them, though, and hopefully have a mid-table finish on that performance.
Yeah, 2-game ban for Kevin Brown for the headbutt.
Fully justified.
Yep. Wakey White said, really enjoyable game this one, end-to-end action, and result could have gone either way up until the last 5 minutes. Gaskell had a great game. Brown should have been sent off, and Paulie continues to swing between being a beast and a pudding every 5 minutes. Yeah, good shout. Shout out to James Child, who managed the game really well and called pretty much everything bob on.
Neil McEwen says, it was a case of both teams trying to fuck it up. Kev the Snake Brown should have got red card for the headbutt. Whatever happened to officials concentrating on play of the balls? I don't think I saw one correct play of the ball in the whole game. Good result for Giants, who brought the usual minibus of fans.
The thing with the play of the ball thing is none of us would be noticing it and talking about it, especially if they hadn't come out ahead of the season, because it's what we've become used to. I don't know why they had to make a statement, because nothing's changed. Macca said, for anyone else you would call it a brain explosion. For Kev Brown you'd call it an explosion, as he's shown time and time again he lacks the necessary hardware. Canberra Raiders have set themselves up to look very silly if George Williams is a bust. Let's be positive, Macca. Let's not write the kid off before he's kicked a ball in anger.
He looks very serious in his team photo. He'll be absolutely fine.
He looks very young.
And finally on this one, Mark W says, our halves were a bit quieter than I expected, but no complaints elsewhere. An entertaining, very physical game that I think we were good value for the win, even if we were helped by a daft Brown brain fart. Waddle and Turner were at their best, and that bench has the potential to cause a lot of trouble this year.
So I guess the starting point is this sin bin of Kevin Brown, 76 minutes. That sin bin and penalty ultimately gave the field position for the Giants to earn another penalty, a clear and obvious penalty. I don't know what Lee Mossop was doing jumping through the ruck like he did there, to win the game, which is a disappointing end for Salford in a very competitive game.
Yeah, no, without question. It's interesting. There seems to be a bit of a split opinion about how good this game was. I actually quite enjoyed it. I don't necessarily mind the grind of a match, and this was at times. One thing I have to call out, though, from the commentary team, they kept confusing Darnell McIntosh and Lee Gaskell. They look nothing like each other.
They do run similarly.
One's got 5 on the back and one's got 6, okay? If you're looking at the numbers, I can understand that might confuse you. They look nothing like each other. And they did it so many times, it was just embarrassing.
Well, to balance it out, I didn't notice, but... but there was something in Joe Bullock was referred to as being from Cumbria though in the Wigan game, and he's from Blackpool, and
he just played for Barrow.
He played for Barrow, yeah, but he's from Blackpool. He's a Blackpool Scorpions product. He, as far as I'm aware, he was born in the same hospital I was born in, so I don't want to be losing anyone like that from our sport. We already lost Lorne Patrick, our previous Blackpool hero, and he never even grew up in Blackpool. He just happened to be born here at the time. But yeah.
Yes. Anyway, yes, he's definitely from Blackpool. But yeah, as the scoreline kind of suggests, it was a very even match. I thought the Giants were actually more effective going forward, and the kind of stats bear that out. I thought any other business was good in this match. Kind of gave them a real bit of shape, as you say, because the halves weren't singing. What else to say about this one? I thought Ken Seo's haircut is a kind of a Fanua tribute, but not quite with the
it's Fanua light, isn't it? It's
Fanua light. It's just didn't have the confidence. It's just slightly disappointing. Although I noticed Fanua had it tied back this week. On the positive side, I thought Caesar's pass for Senior's try in the second half was beautiful. That was a beautiful pass, great deception. But I have to say, I thought for me, go on.
Who was it who came in off the wing for that? It must have been Seo's wing, mustn't it? That was poor.
That is Seo's wing, yeah.
That part of it was poor, but great of Caesar, like you say, to spot it and execute it.
Yeah, definitely. I have to say, though, for me, the play of the match was actually it was before Brown had gone off, and it was because a lot of the second half for me was very much a chess match in terms of it was all about field position and building pressure, and it was about 65 minutes-ish. The Giants were kind of really under pressure on their own line, and they kind of moved the ball left to right, and they managed to break out and actually hand the ball over in Salford's 10, and it completely switched the momentum from my point of view, because they were definitely under the pump at that point. And actually, you can build a story from that kind of point, as you say, through the Kevin Brown red card and kind of up to the Mossop penalty, really, that actually in the end got them the win, because 15 minutes to go, scores level. They were probably second favourites at that point, because it looked like Salford might get the chance for a drop goal.
Would come home, wouldn't you, as it were?
Yeah, but yeah, unbeaten Huddersfield. What more can you say?
I do think the second half was both sides not wanting to make a mistake.
There was a level of caution,
wasn't it? And it seemed like it was that way all up until the point where Salford started making mistakes. Lola Here's missed drop goal attempt, I thought, was weak. That that was a good opportunity that you would expect a player of his caliber to have taken. And then the sin bin in the penalties rolled through, and really it just gave the Giants the impetus that they needed. And even though there was that incident right at the very end of the game, that was possibly the most exciting